Namaste everyone. Welcome to the last episode of Womb Wisdom, where we'll be talking about the pregnancy and post-pregnancy care. Once again, I have Dr. Vasudha with me. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Namaste.
So, right, jumping into the topic, ma'am. As usual, we would like to understand how does Ayurveda look at pregnancy beyond just carrying the baby.
Right. So, pregnancy is an experience, it's a natural gift to a lady to experience motherhood. And the interconnectedness which the mother experiences with the fetus is the best, which the lady, imbibes, because finally the child is there always with you for future. But that bond which develops during pregnancy is the most essential of one's life. I feel it's an experience. Being a mother myself, I know what I felt when I was pregnant, and I think I can still carry those vibes. I can still remember those aspects, because they are a very special part. They don't keep repeating now and then.
Yes.
Unlike earlier days, women used to have 5 kids, 7 children, 10 children, and it became a monotony. I'm sure you would have heard stories about how it was, but not anymore. We kind of move between 1 and 3 children, and
Exactly.
but the first one always receives a lot of
Affection
and
attention.
attention, so many things. Right. So therefore, I feel that pregnancy is a beautiful journey, and people should first of all view it as a very natural change, and it's not a disorder or a problem. And that's, I think, the start to the topic today.
And ma'am, when we talk about prenatal care, is there any specific, like you have always enlightened us that there is certain branches in Ayurveda that talk about preconception, that talk about problems in women, that talk about mental problems. Is there any science or branch in Ayurveda that also talks about prenatal care?
Oh, yes. So, Kaumara Bhritya is one branch in Ayurveda which talks about Kumara, that means children.
Okay.
So, when you explore Kaumara Bhritya and go back to its roots, it's all about pregnancy. So, Kashyapa Samhita is a very specific book which talks a lot about pregnancy care, whether it is, that means to say, prenatal care and postnatal care as well. And Ayurveda lays a lot of information, because we talk about preconception, then we talk about pregnancy,
Right.
then we talk about postnatal care. And when we say Garbha Samskara, therefore we include preconception and pregnancy care as well.
All
so
right.
it starts from the time that you have skipped your cycle, and then you are tested positive pregnancy. Nowadays, yes, you have either the urine for pregnancy kits, or of course you can do your beta HCG. There are so many things, and you obviously have to consult a doctor if you know you're trying and if you have skipped your cycle.
Ma'am, everybody, even in my family, my sisters, everybody in the last generation as well, always moved towards modern medical sciences. They all had gynecologists, right? But if today, if somebody wants to blend their modern medicines along with Ayurvedic practices during those 9 months of pregnancy, what do you suggest people can do?
So it's definitely possible. First of all, people are very skeptical because they
Yes.
are not aware.
Aware.
And when we talk about antenatal care, it's
Okay.
called ANC in short. The gynecological approach is highly essential because it is also very specifically monitored, and to ensure that the maternal and the fetal death rate is under total control, proper and the regimental ANC is highly essential. Now, when Ayurveda is brought in, how do you ensure that people are not confused? That's also something.
Exactly.
One is, people first of all should know what to do, then comes confusion. So it's always better to visit an Ayurveda physician who has worked in this space, at least after you test positive. But if you are already under a preconception care under an Ayurveda physician, the physician will take you through the pregnancy care also. So preconception, now people have started understanding. Likewise, I think we need some more time till people come back and say, no, I'm pregnant, can I do some pregnancy care as well? But it is essential, because Ayurveda pregnancy care not only just deals with a normal growth and development of the fetus, but also deals with the maternal health very much, takes care of the mind body of the mother,
Mhm.
because finally what is governing the fetal health? It's the mother's mind.
Mother's mind. So anything, any herbs, any exercises, I'm sure, I mean, everybody is aware of yoga these days that women are pursuing during their 9 months of pregnancy, but anything from the Ayurvedic perspective that we can inculcate along with the modern medicines as well?
See,
Few tips?
Ayurveda explains all this under the subject matter called Garbhini Paricharya. Garbhini is the pregnant lady, Paricharya is the routine. So it starts from first month till the 9th month. So they
Alright.
divide it into 3 trimesters and say what you have to do in month 1, what are you supposed to do in month 2. But the orientation is more towards diet. Okay.
Okay.
Now somebody is now in say month 1.
Mhm.
We talk about Garbha Samskara. So this starts there. So Garbha Samskara of course has to start before conception. After conception you have to take care, right? You can't just leave and say, okay,
Correct.
now pregnancy has occurred, now I'll just do whatever I want. It's not possible. You have to upkeep the health of the fetus by doing certain practices such as yoga, by following lifestyle guidelines which are mentioned in Ayurveda. And there are 3 important focus points which comes to Garbhini Paricharya. One is to upkeep the mother's health. One is to ensure that the mother and the fetus are healthy enough to avoid complications of pregnancy. And the third is to move towards natural delivery or normal delivery. So these are the 3 highlights of Garbhini Paricharya as mentioned in Ayurveda as well. So I think it's high time we explore this.
So, ma'am, moving from first trimester towards the last, where we will address how Ayurveda can help us in natural delivery, any do's and don'ts, especially on the nutrition front, that you can advise to our current mothers who are first time mothers actually?
Right. So first of all, when you're first time mothers, you are not having too much of information. You rely
Exactly.
on information through the internet. You rely on information from your
Friends and
mothers,
families and
mother-in-laws, and of course your friends. So, but what happens is when you just are tested positive, you also start experiencing a lot of problems. It could be morning sickness, which includes nausea, sometimes vomiting, sometimes a feeling of aches and pains. You are not your normal self. Sometimes you're not able to eat because of nausea, vomiting. So every time we talk about diet, it has to be planned on how she feels. If I tell
Okay.
her, okay, you're in the first trimester and then you really need to eat well, where is the question if she's vomiting? Anything you eat will come out.
Yes.
Now, depending on the problem the person is facing, or if the person is, or the lady is not facing any problem, well and good. You have all the freedom to help the person do better. Now, if let's look at the condition where they have nausea, vomiting. Some of them have uncontrolled nausea, right?
Yes,
They're not able
yes.
to eat. So, Ayurveda recommends some simple remedies. One thing which has worked across all the ladies who have come to me when they are pregnant and who face this problem is very simple. Roast the rice, grind the rice coarsely, use the roasted rice powder and make a ganji or a porridge out of it. What you have to do, take 2 spoons, add 4 glasses of water, boil it very well, maybe add 2-3 drops of lemon juice or roasted jeera powder, a pinch or 2 of salt, and take it. Now this is so nourishing,
Yes.
and the person is not going to put it out. But
Okay.
you obviously should not be taking all these all of a sudden in larger quantity. You have to take small bites when you have too much of nausea, vomiting.
And can this be taken in all the 3 trimesters?
You can take in all the 3 trimester, but by the second trimester the problem is going to reduce. Now parallelly, what we also do is we give them a lot of relaxation based techniques. Yoga based relaxation will actually help your nervous system calm down, and therefore that feeling, the trigger of nausea, vomiting is going to reduce. So we see very good results. Now this is how you can inculcate Ayurveda and yoga. You don't have to intervene with medicines because
Correct.
you are already taking folic acid or you're taking something else.
Correct.
But during pregnancy, we also suggest Ayurveda medicines. But they are meant to be taken like supplements in pregnancy. They are not medicine per se, is not a drug. So one, to ensure that your iron levels are good, you can also take natural iron supplements instead of taking a normal iron supplement available in the market. You can also take natural calcium supplements
Okay.
of Ayurveda. Apart from this, you can specifically work on bringing in some recipes from your kitchen which can
Hmm.
help your day-to-day requirements. So there's so many things like this.
So are you saying depending on the person and the time of the trimester, you would suggest them nutrition and other supplements?
True.
So ma'am, since you have picked up on nausea, which is a very big problem for the first time mothers and anytime anybody gets pregnant, can you also address about swelling and vomiting, how people, these quick nuskhas that you can suggest for swelling and vomiting as well?
So I think vomiting per se, the same suggestions
It
will
would
work. But when they have hyperemesis gravidarum, that is, they have too much of vomiting and
Yes.
uncontrolled, they cannot even take water. Many
Yes.
women also face this. Their relaxation practices is the first thing we try to bring in. One, of course, they are given antiemetics which prevent vomiting. Sometimes they land up taking, but as we work with them, they can reduce the antiemetics instead of taking them continuously. And relaxation is therefore proven to be very beneficial there. We also give mild pranayama practices, mild chanting based practices which calms them, and indirectly it helps. It may not reduce and the problem completely, but definitely there is a significant reduction the way that the lady is able to at least manage taking some liquid food at least based on the likes and dislikes. That's
So
obviously
basically,
there.
instead of rushing to the hospital and getting admitted, which we are observing a lot these days, these are the quick
Yeah,
things
so
that can
you
be done.
parallelly do whatever modern medicine interventions are there, but you should not feel skeptical and scared to attempt simple things like this.
Simple thing, yes.
If it is a homemade porridge and if it is yoga based relaxation pranayama, how is it going to trouble you? See, another major problem is the moment you say yoga, no, you're not supposed to do yoga. So that comes in as a reaction from maybe the doctor they are seeing. But please understand, yoga doesn't mean only asanas. So what I'm talking about is relaxation and pranayama and chanting, which has nothing to do with troubling your pregnancy.
Right. Anything for swelling and back pain?
Back pain, yes, definitely. So yoga based stretches, like we have lumbar stretch, we have single leg pavan muktasana, where we don't ask the person to take the leg on the abdomen but towards the side. And
Okay.
all these practices are definitely done in the non-prone position. So you are never allowed or asked to lie down on your tummy or in prone position.
Yeah.
But accordingly we teach them. So even as simple as a chair based stress, now we are like this, right? You do simple stretches which help your back muscles relax. So there are variations which are brought in during pregnancy as well, using sometimes a ball, some props, chairs, all these are there. And doctors train pregnant women, so where is the fear of having a problem?
I think we will slowly adapt to the ways of Ayurveda. Ma'am, when we were collecting questions, interestingly, we have received some questions which genetics obviously plays a very big role, and how the mother's nutrition also plays a very big role. But there were few expecting mothers who also asked us how, first of all, they can feel more connected with the baby. Second, if they can do anything to improve the immunity of the baby. Third, of which I do not know is the right question or not, how can they make sure that the baby is intelligent?
Okay. So your first question, says, can you repeat that question?
How can we feel more connected with the baby?
So there is, when you talk about connection with the fetus, there is a word called Dauhrada used in Ayurveda. In the 4th month, you start seeing the heartbeat, and even when you do a scan, they do all these tests to check whether everything is intact. So why they say Dauhrada? There are 2 hearts. Dau is 2. Hruda is
so
heart.
one is mother's heart,
One is the
baby's.
fetus. So your interconnectedness has to start from then on or even before. And the more you start feeling good about your pregnancy, the more you work on yourself during pregnancy, and the more you are talking about it, doing something about enhancing your mind and body balance, I think you start getting more and more connected. You should not get carried away with your own tasks of the day. You may be working, okay, So you are all the time busy. I get up, I make something, or I
Mm.
make something for myself, for my family, whatever. You go to work or work from home, or you may be in some other profession doing something else. You get engaged, and then you are tired by 7 o'clock. You're first of all pregnant in the first trimester. You lose out all energy. You're like, okay, I'm
Right.
going to eat something and sleep. So your day is just gone very meticulously,
Hmm.
unplanned, and very, very mechanical.
Right.
Now, this is the
Absolutely right.
problem.
Yes.
Now, where is the interconnectedness? Where is the scope of getting connected to your fetus?
Absolutely right.
And come on, you have done preconception care. You're maybe you have struggled to get pregnant, and now because you're pregnant, you're happily forgetting what all you did. That's not the way
Hmm.
out. So I think first that's very important that we get out of our mechanical instincts and try to say that we develop methodology to
Hmm.
bring in a little more of the spiritual emotional instincts of
Hmm.
ourselves, and that will help connect well with the fetus.
And what about the immunity? How mothers can make sure that the baby has a great immunity when he comes out?
So
He or
it's
she
all
comes
about
out.
maternal diet.
Hmm.
Okay, so what diet the mother should take? Healthy, no, not junk. What kind of nutrition the diet has? All these are going to play a role. So in Ayurveda, that's why we suggest certain, I said, some supplements like
Hmm.
we give Phalasarpis during pregnancy, which is one of a common polyherbal ghee-based formulation, which is very,
Right.
very, very essential. So such things help the fetal development also in the right form,
Hmm.
and because of which the immunity also starts becoming better. And if the mother falls sick during pregnancy, then it definitely affects the immunity of the child. See, some mothers have cold, cough,
Yes.
allergies. They have not worked on themselves in preconception care, so that's why
Hmm.
preconception is very important. You can't do and correct all the things after you're pregnant, so
After you're
you have to be vigilant to correct your problems before and not during pregnancy, because nothing can change. Your genes are formed, your DNA is already aligned. So where is the question of changing your DNA? That's where it is. Apart from this, practicing yoga regularly will definitely help, because yoga works on improving the immunity. That means to say it improves your immune system. There are fighter cells
Hmm.
in the system.
Hmm.
So a lot of research has proved how regular yoga practice can improve the fighter cells, the number of fighter cells also, and that means to say your immune system is stronger.
And the third question was, can mothers do anything so that, I wouldn't say it as intelligence, but baby's overall mental development is quite strong. Let's put it that way. I think if there is something that women can do about it.
So yes, you will have an intelligent child provided you are as intelligent, your husband is as intelligent, and
Genetics.
because you'll see some genetics, but
Yeah.
not necessarily. Okay, but what also happens is every human being
Mm-hmm.
has got, though some similarity with the parents, the genetic predisposition and the rewinding changes. So therefore, that boy or girl definitely has got a different personality and different traits. But generally, people who are having intelligent and well-read parents also tend to have a predisposition towards it. Not that they land up without intelligence. It's probably that they have not used their intelligence well. If they are not performing well, we can infer it that way. But what mothers should also do is cultivate a daily discipline. Even
Okay.
they're waking up in the morning, your sleep routine, what you, more than what you eat, what you do is very important to build intelligence. Why do they say that you should read books like Bhagavad Gita during pregnancy?
Yes.
Why
Yes.
do they say that you should read good books,
Yes.
see good things on the television, not
Correct.
Netflix series and all uh, the crap you have on OTT? So then builds your intelligence, because you are giving the right thought
Hmm.
towards for you, and the right thought is going to manifest in your child. If you are a person who also has other habits, like maybe on the weekend you want to chill out,
Right.
then the child also has a bit of inclination not for chilling out, but the intellect is disabled somewhere. So that continuation is very important. So it's like electricity. You have the flow of electricity. If the conduction is lost, electricity is not flowing, so you don't see the bulb glowing. So if you want the bulb of your child to glow very well after birth, then you have to continuously work on yourself during pregnancy.
Right.
And after the child is born also, you cannot put pressure to study. That's not intelligence anyway.
Right. And moving on to, we touched upon it earlier as well, natural delivery, which has become one of the most challenging things in today's day and time because of the routine. We are all aware of what we have done to our body, but we want to understand how Ayurveda, obviously with the help of yoga, can help us achieve normal delivery, and when should we start with that?
See, right from conception, you definitely can start on Ayurveda.
Okay.
Medicines also, and start enhancing your metabolism. So keep your digestive fire good, keep your general health good, keep yourself free from constipation. All these are also aspects.
Okay.
But the last 3 months were very important. And the in between months on the second trimester, where you can also work on your muscles.
Yes.
What is important for natural delivery? One, the mindset. Second, your physical body has to support your mindset.
Correct.
So if you have weak pelvic muscles, if you have weak thigh muscles, the natural delivery is going to be difficult, because in vaginal delivery, your pelvis has to be very, very supportive. Now, but there are a lot of ifs and buts here. If the person or the lady is very short statured with not so very wide pelvis, then the person might have certain problems in achieving normal delivery, but you can still keep working towards it. So across the trimesters, we have to concentrate and keep our health in good condition, but focus a little more in the last trimester. But that is the third trimester, starting from month 7, 8, 9. To help normal delivery, one, do regular yoga practices, which also have to start from at least 12th week of pregnancy, because yoga, as we discussed, people feel it's a physical practice, so I should avoid doing yoga. First trimester practices may not be physical. Second, that is after 12 weeks, we might start bringing in physical postures and a lot of things based on the condition of the lady. We check the ultrasound scans, we check the other studies which are done during the antenatal care, and then we tweak the practices based on requirement. Then comes the third trimester. So pelvic stretch based practices, pelvic strengthening based practices, pelvic floor practices, all these are brought in during the practice of yoga. And apart from all this is breath control. So you should know towards the delivery how to bring in that push, which is essential during
there's a technique to it.
Yeah, breathing techniques, definitely. So during vaginal delivery, breath manipulation is very important. Holding the breath and pushing the child, right, or the fetus is very important, because it should finally come out of the vagina. And if you are not giving the adequate thrust, then you are unable to perform well during the labor. So labor contractions have, so the doctor will tell you, when you have labor contractions, during the contraction you cannot do anything. Once the contraction pauses, you are supposed to give that extra thrust. Breath is very important. If you do not know how to work on your breathing, how can you give that push, which is essential? Also, building on your physical strength along with this is therefore very, very important, and the combination of Ayurveda and yoga therefore works. Some we work more on yoga front, and less on the Ayurveda front, and results are very, very encouraging.
I think we do have a lot of patients coming in for second and third trimester yoga classes, and that is why we have so many curious questions around us. Moving on to ma'am, we have so many opinions. I think one of the reasons that today's mothers have stress after delivery is because of opinions flying around them from each and everybody who comes and visits them, right? So how will you address, or how does Ayurveda address postnatal care of both the mother and the baby?
Yep. So postnatal care is defined in Ayurveda as Sutika Paricharya.
Sutika Paricharya.
Garbhini Paricharya,
And
Sutika Paricharya.
All right.
So they say that this, what is the Sutika Avastha? First of all, postnatal, it is a 45-day, minimum 45-day time
First
period
45 days from the day of delivery.
from the day of delivery.
Alright.
But it extends up to 3 months. But the first 45 days is at least the time where you need to take the highest care. But 3 months is essentially the period where the postnatal regimen should be followed. So it's not a traditional requirement, but it is a scientific requirement. And women should understand that you don't have to flaunt and say that I am back to work in 15 days.
Yeah.
Who is enduring what? You are enduring yourself, and you need that rest post delivery, and body needs to recoup and revive, because we talk about involution of uterus. That means to say the uterus expands,
Okay.
comes almost to your epigastric region. Now it has to become a small pelvic
Yes.
organ.
Yes.
From pelvis it has moved to become an abdominal organ. Now it has to go down. That takes time, and until that involution starts happening, you should be taking care of yourself. That's why Sutika Paricharya is also given lot of information. There is a lot of information on that, and we also need to give a lot of importance to this phase post delivery.
All right. Ma'am, in Ayurveda, is there a concept of PTSD after delivery? And
Yes.
why are so many women experiencing this? And for those who are experiencing, your sisters or your wife, how can somebody from the family like myself or the husband can help the women recover from that PTSD?
So what we majorly see and what Ayurveda also describes is depression. You're talking postnatal depression.
Yes.
It's become very common. There is post-traumatic depression and stress, which is also seen. So basically, they're more so interrelated. The mother is not well prepared to accept the challenges which happen soon after birth of the child. More than that, the mother is emotionally not so well taken care. There's a lot of challenge because you're not able to either face the societal pressure, or you are not able to understand what is right, what is wrong, and you're emotionally weak. Now, why did you get into that problem, first of all? Right? So you are unable to control your mind. You are emotionally weak. You feel very, very depressed, and you feel overwhelmed. You're not able to control, and that's why you land up in trouble. Now, that's a simple way of explaining a lady who gets into this problem of postnatal depression. But there are ways to come out of postnatal depression. First of all, understand that there is depression. By the time they understand, it's late.
Correct. They've
So-
already gone through the emotional turmoil.
Right, but some of them, maybe because of better education and awareness which is also being brought in this area, they start feeling, okay, yes, maybe there's something wrong. First of all, approach the medical practitioner for help. You don't have to rely on antidepressants, because that can create maybe more
Much
problem
bigger
to you.
problem.
You are not at all connected with your child. Absolutely, many mothers are unable to take care, so they are totally dissociated. So imagine a new baby born, and the mother, both of them are not having any attachment. So what
Right.
happens to the baby as well? So there is long term impact which we also have to take care. Instead of resorting to just antidepressants, postnatal yoga will eventually play a very, very crucial role in their recovery. Lot of familial support, counseling will also be very, very essential to manage postnatal depression. Apart from this, we use Ayurveda medicines also, which
Okay.
do not interfere in lactation.
Okay.
And that whole integrative approach which I spoke about works very well. We also use acupuncture in these cases.
Okay.
So overall, if using of Ayurveda medicines, doing yoga therapy, doing acupuncture, having a counselor with you, and also getting the family support is very essential. Then the whole package can really help the person come out of postnatal depression.
Ma'am, as I don't have a lot of information around this, but having these conversations with you in the past few weeks, is it safe to say if a woman has gone through Garbha Samskara, if a woman has gone through prenatal care, right? Where we spoke about how you as a woman can feel more connected to the baby and everything else. Do you think if all of this is done as Ayurveda suggests to be done, there's a high chance a woman will not go through PTSD?
There are higher chances that people may not face a problem like postnatal depression because you are under a curriculum. It is like you want to score 95% in an exam. It's just not possible in doing something fast track in the last 3 months. So you would have worked on it, and that's why you have scored 95%. So it's not about intelligence alone, it's also about the effort. So when
Correct.
you go through a regimen, you're nurtured your body, mind, from within you're more happy. You have generated all that positivity which is needed for you to become a new parent. And definitely the chance of postnatal depression is very low.
So, I mean, it is for our viewers. Please find a Ayurvedic practitioner around you. Talk to them. If you want, please get in touch with us. But do get the understanding of Garbha Sanskara post and prenatal care from the lens of Ayurveda. Now, ma'am, everybody, I'm sure you must have also come across many old wife tales, right? After your pregnancy. Do you want to burst some myths around that?
So, basically many of them get a lot of, I think, information. I would say it's more about giving a lot of nuskas.
Yes.
Okay, so some will say you should not eat, anything made up of oil, or you should not eat probably something which is very spicy. Some part is true. Okay,
Okay.
some part is probably exaggerated. So a common analogy which people can have is keep the food habits healthy in the postnatal spectrum. Understand that you take very light and easily digestible food because your agni or your metabolism is still not intact, especially the first 45 days. There are a lot of do's and don'ts which we give, not to eat few things, especially tubers, raw vegetables, curd,
Okay.
dairy, apart from milk, is totally contraindicated even in Ayurveda for postnatal care.
So, ma'am, are you saying that in dairy we should be only taking milk, or the other way around? What is your take on dairy?
In postnatal care, we generally don't recommend dairy. Milk
Okay.
is allowed, but rest of the dairy is preferably not, recommended, because as per Ayurveda, all this aggravate your kapha, and they're also heavy for digestion. During the Sutikavastha, especially the first 45 days, your metabolism is weak. Your digestive system or your Agni is also underperforming, being weak. So supply it with healthy, light, nourishing food. That's how it would enhance and help.
Ma'am, we missed one of the questions, and one of the viewers just really curiously wanted this to be answered. So we'll have to take a few steps back, and if you can help us understand, there are so many special child cases, like kids are born with autism, kids are born with special illnesses, right? So how can prenatal care from the lens of Ayurveda help us prevent these cases?
Yeah. So the incidence of problems such as autism, ADHD, are
Right.
developmental disorders are actually in rise. So this is all because of lifestyle, and when we follow a very healthy preconception care and pregnancy care, we can definitely bring down the incidence of these problems. So stress in the pregnant woman is also one of the primary reason
Okay.
for a problem like autism in the child. Autism cannot be detected at birth, but as the child starts growing, even at a tender age of 10 months or 1.2 to 1.5 years, many parents also are able to observe these characteristics of autism in the child. That's why it's called an autism spectrum disorder.
Okay.
But if we are able to work on the impact of stress on the mother, basically the pregnant lady, then I'm sure the incidence can reduce. And also, this work overload, what is contributing to all this? Right?
Yes.
It's the work overload. It's not being disengaged into whatever you're doing. You continue the same pattern of work as you were
Right.
when you were probably not pregnant. So there are certain changes which we can bring in our overall activities during pregnancy, and also contribute to our own well-being, especially the fetal well-being, and that can reduce the incidence.
Ma'am, is it safe to say that when you are an expecting mother, you should not be indulging in high pressure work, or doing a lot where you are required to exert a lot of your energy? Is it like, do you suggest that women should like maybe take a step back while they are pregnant?
See, pregnancy definitely is a phase where if you reduce your stress overload, it's going to be beneficial to you. But if your job profile demands, you can probably slightly mitigate the
Hmm.
reduction of stress, so that you also work on reducing the impact of it. But it doesn't mean that you have to quit your job.
Of course.
You have to just stay back home and just relax, eat and sleep. Rather, that's going to cause more harm to you and
You
your
have to be active.
child than otherwise.
All right. Ma'am, coming back to the postnatal care, can you throw some light on nutrition for the both mother and the baby? Obviously the first 45 days and after that.
So, when it comes to postnatal care, Ayurveda has some specific recommendation for the first 45 days. So, we generally, when it comes to vegetables, we don't suggest tubers like potato, maybe beetroots or heavy
All right.
vegetables like this, which are
Okay.
not very easily digestible. And we also do not suggest too much of fruits during the first 45 days, especially the first 3 weeks are also more no to fruits. After that, depending on the season, depending on the personality type of the individual, we do bring it in few cases. Beyond that, it is about not taking dairy. Milk is a product which is allowed, but rest of them are not indicated during the postnatal period, because they are said to be overall heavy for digestion, and that can
Heavy.
impair digestion. If digestion is impaired, your lactation also is impaired. So overall, the focus on the mother is based on improving lactation, improving the the physical and mental well-being of the mother, and also ensure that the fetal well-being is taken care because of all this. And beyond this, physical activity, when you come to that, then during the initial phase, not much of physical activity, but slowly we bring in. After 3 weeks, we definitely recommend
Okay.
yoga based on the type of delivery, whether it is vaginal delivery or cesarean section. But once again, when we say yoga, don't suddenly start thinking, how can I do a Surya Namaskar? Okay, so it is always tuned
Tuned to the
to the
requirement.
requirement of the person. Some of them continue to have vaginal bleeding for a long time
Yes.
post delivery. That point of time, we may not give any practices, but yoga also will start helping them feel lighter. And it also uh, helps because they have a lot of lack of sleep, and first time mothers are always so confused as to what's happening to me. My whole schedule has gone so erratic. So the acceptance to all this change takes a little while. So during this phase, yoga can really, really help them. Not only this, Ayurveda oil baths are very, very
Okay.
useful because they can manage, the suppleness of your body, help you feel more strengthened, and it also starts reducing the fat and starts helping you tone your body, because this is where the lifestyle in the postnatal phase is very important, not restricting to only food, but also physical activity and anything for with respect to improving your mental well-being.
Glad you touched upon the oil massage thing, ma'am, because we see that it's recommended in our houses that you mother and the baby both have oil massages every day. Is it something that you also suggest?
Yeah, Ayurveda suggests the oil massages. We give and prescribe specific Ayurveda based oils to the mother and a
All
different
right.
Ayurveda oil to the baby. Suggestions are also given around what to use to take off the oil, to keep the skin healthy for the baby. So, a lot of these aspects are covered and governed as well.
Any examples for oil that you can give quick references for our viewers? Because
Yeah.
I'm sure people are just using sarson ka tel and coconut oil for the
Yeah.
massages.
So for the mother, one of the recommended oil is called Dhanvantram Taila, We
Okay.
also use another oil called Balaguluchadi Tailam. There are many, but I would probably suggest one of the two. And for the child, Balashwagandhadi Taila is a very recommended oil to be used. Just warm the oil, apply the oil,
Hmm.
give a gentle massage on the baby also. If not every day, at least every alternate day, depending on the season, oils
Hmm.
can be used. If it's a very dull, rainy, cold day, maybe you can skip the oil massage that
Okay.
day. Give warm water baths to child, because that's also going to be very useful for the growth and development of
Hmm.
the baby. And accordingly, take care of keeping them warm, keeping yourself warm in the first 45 days, which also helps in reducing future problems.
Hmm. That's what our grandmothers keep telling us. I also want to ask you one question. I'm sure many women has it. How long after delivery should a woman take a bath?
Immediately.
Immediately. Because I'm sure in many of
There
the
is
households they are asked not to take bath for at least
definitely
24
not.
hours.
No, no, definitely not. When you're in the hospital, they will anyway tell you to take a shower. But if they deny, that is different. But there is no contraindication to taking a normal warm water bath on the body. Head bath may be preferably avoided,
Avoided.
because when you take a hair wash sometime, you may not be comfortable, you might feel dizzy or something, because you
Okay.
are low on your energy. So
Yes.
one of the reason why they probably ask you not to is that. But if you're able to handle the situation, and if you're in a position to kind of sit upright and feel normal, there's no problem if you take a shower, but it should be a hot water shower.
Hot water shower. And ma'am, according to Ayurveda, how long a baby should be breastfed?
Breastfeeding can happen at least for a minimum period of 11 months.
11 months.
And after that also, breastfeeding can continue for at least up to 1.3 to 1.5 years.
Okay.
And it's important that during this process, the other nutritive aspects are also taken care, whether it is giving some cereals at month 5, month 6, start introducing your food when month 6 or 7, and a lot more. So Ayurveda describes something called samskara for children.
Okay.
Like we said, Garbha
Garbha
samskara.
samskara.
You also have samskaras, Shodasha samskaras. 16 samskaras are mentioned for children right from birth. All of us know, in Indian tradition, right from Mundan to, Upanayanam, all these are phases. Now,
Correct.
where does this order come from? All that is mentioned in Ayurveda also. So the Shodasha samskaras, which start right after birth for the child, are actually meant as phases for preparation of the child to become an adult, a very socially responsible adult.
Wow.
That was the science.
I think if you guys are interested about knowing such 16 samskaras for a child, please let us know. Maybe we'll design a program around that and episodes around that as well. Ma'am, can you give us some quick tips? For example, if the parents who are traveling with the baby, of course, they cannot breastfeed all the time, and if the baby has surpassed the first 6 months timeline, obviously packaged food is not something that you would recommend or anybody would like to go to. Can you give us some quick recipes that we can carry along, or which can be very, very, very beneficial for the child?
Yes. So something very easy which can be made at
Yes.
home is roast the ragi lightly.
Mm-hmm.
You can feel that aroma and the golden brown color of ragi. Cool the pan, and then just put it in the mixer and make the ragi powder. So the roasted ragi powder makes the ragi very light for consumption.
All right.
And you can just make a porridge out of it. Actually, children love ragi porridge. So you can have two variations. One is the sweetened version, another is the salted version. So you just take, when you start it for a 6-month-old baby, you have to be careful. You can start maybe every alternate day or once in 2 days and test the receptivity of the child.
Okay.
Because it should not cause digestive issues, right? So you please do it under physician's guidance. But recipes, of course, can be made. Take maybe quarter spoon or half spoon on the first day. Add little water. Say you can add about quarter cup of water to half spoon or quarter spoon, and then add another 2-3 spoons of milk just for taste, in case you started feeding cow's milk or milk from outside. Otherwise, just stick on to water. Boil the ragi porridge with that 1 cup or half cup of water into a semi-solid consistency, where you just see 2-3 bubbles coming up. And then you can add maybe 2-3 pinches of organic jaggery powder for taste.
Is it safe to give organic jaggery powder
You can
after
give
6
at
months?
6 months. Yes, 2-3 pinches you can add for taste. Some other day you can add a pinch of salt. You can add roasted jeera powder. So you can make two variants out of the ragi. So as they grow, maybe by month 7, you can also add moong dal. The green moong can be
Alright.
roasted with this, but the ratio should be maybe 1/4 of the ragi or half. So likewise, many grandmothers also add chana dal and yellow moong dal into this. Maybe after 7-8 months, you can do that as well. So these are some simple remedies or options rather than a market available cereal powder.
Ma'am, what's your take on nuts, dry fruit nuts? For example, we have almonds, we have cashew, we have chuara. Shall we give it to our kids, like babies, at such early stage?
So you can use maybe a very small portion of it after month 7, add it with the same porridge, maybe a couple of almonds. Pista, cashews are not greatly recommended at that age, but almonds can be used. Raisins also can be used. You can soak raisins, like with 2 raisins you can soak in the morning, especially kids who are constipated. This is
Alright.
a very good tip for them. You can just take 2 raisins, black raisins or brown raisins, soak them overnight, and the morning crush the raisins very well and give the water to the baby. Don't feed the raisin because the baby can't chew.
Correct.
And maybe repeat it for a week or 15 days. But please ensure that you have to wash the raisin and then soak it. It's a good remedy.
For constipation. Ma'am, we are on the closing note for Womb Wisdom episodes. Any leaving thought for us on either the topic of discussion or from any previous topics that you want to bring henceforth in front of our audience?
Just to concise, all of us as women should understand that we prioritize our health. We should give ourselves that me time. We should use and educate ourselves more about what is available for us, especially to take care of our health, whether it is menstrual health, whether it is health during menarche for the girl child, whether it is perimenopausal or menopausal. Health is very, very important, and the expectant mothers should know, or those mothers who are planning to conceive also should know, that there is a lot available in Ayurveda and yoga to enhance maternal and fetal well-being, and you should definitely take those steps ahead, because you can prevent any complication in the fetus. You can also prevent and make your postnatal phase a beautiful phase. That's probably what I would like to conclude with.
So thank you, ma'am. Thank you for giving us so much information around women and child care amongst these last 5 episodes. We are very, very happy to have you. And thank you, audience, for receiving us so well, for giving us so much encouragement to keep doing these episodes and finish the series. See you on the other side. Have a great day ahead.
Thank you.